Welcome to a summary of sorts of renting an RV. You know this season is all about motorized, and we wanted to do the A, B, and C of motorized rigs. So today we're going to boil it down, things we learned, questions you had, we're answering right now.
I feel these pages turning, yesterday is burning, now's the time for learning.
You don't want to go too hard, so you don't want to bend anything else.
I found what was making the noise.
Hello, everybody. Down. Are you by the tag axle? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna turn it to auto. Tell me what happens.
Right now in this traffic, I mean, how many times have we said that in traffic? Like, if we had a Class A right now, Mom could be making lunch.
And here we are, and she's asleep.
Yeah!
Aye, Captain. I need some friends.
It's a golden age. Oh, it's a golden age. Yeah, I believe it's a golden age.
Wow.
High five.
Energy's awakened. There's no time for
Good job, Charlie.
Good job, Charlie.
Oh, here. Dad, give me some.
We're gonna cover how to select the right person to rent an RV from.
That's important.
Maybe the right company. What are some of the costs associated to renting an RV? And maybe some of the hidden costs too. How to prepare, what to bring, and understanding, and this is probably the most important thing, I think we should start here, understanding your mission when it comes to renting an RV.
I love it. What
Right.
do you think mission means so that people at home understand?
Our mission with KYD, like Trish said, you know, each year we're on season 10, all about motorized. Normally our seasons are about like geographical locations.
Yes.
This season was about really learning different types of ways that you can have a motorized RV.
Yeah.
So our mission was to gain experience, which, looking back, was probably part of the problem, because if you've seen some of the videos, you know, it was not easy.
I love that there was a problem. Yes.
Because
yes.
I think for a lot of people, if you're going to go on a big trip, an RV trip, it's to bring the family together, it's to go see national parks, it's to go make this epic trip, or it's
Right.
to go to fly to Alaska. We rented an RV when we went to New Zealand.
Yes.
So the mission is the location. Perhaps this is where maybe Videoland starts to kind of like skew the mission, right? Because we were like, hey, we want to try a big old diesel pusher, a Class A diesel pusher.
Yeah.
We want to try a Class C, we want to try a Class B. And of course, we have to do this in a frequency where people were canceling on us. So we're going to talk about some of the struggle, because we did. We had a reservation cancel on us the day before, but we still had reservations at Catalina State Park. So anyway, I think understanding your mission is your mission to be with family and go on a big trip, because we think that's a great purpose for renting RV, right? Like going out to Arches.
Yes. Well, okay, so if you're renting a rig, so there's two different things. If you're looking to buy a rig and you don't know which kind of rig, maybe you want to ask yourself, what is it that I like to do? Do I like to go hike? Do I want to be at the center of the location? Maybe a van is right for you. Maybe I have a family and I want us all to be able to have seatbelts and travel together. Maybe a Class C is right for you. And also certain Class Cs are really powerful. So do I have a lot of toys? And then that you can pull. And then also Class A's, luxury. Do I want something that's spacious, maybe some high quality finishes, space for multiple people? Usually Class A's are set up for a couple, but sometimes you have them with bunks. And so anyway, but a Class A is probably going to put you at an RV park, and then you're going to drive in with your tow car. That's what they call them, the Toad. You're going to drive in with your tow car and go in and around and go see what you'd like to see. So asking yourself, what is it that I want to go do? I think that's imperative before you either rent a rig or you purchase a rig.
So I suggested maybe a great purpose for renting a rig would be a big family, epic family trip.
Yeah.
But you're saying another good purpose might be to test out a rig, right? There's a really big caveat to that. And that is, and this is why we've never really been an advocate of renting a rig before, because even before we got into the RV lifestyle, Trish didn't even want to go on a single trip before we left for 6 months.
Well, I just wanted to go because I was worried
that it wasn't going to go good.
That it wasn't going to go well.
It wasn't going to go well.
And when we made this commitment, we purchased a rig, and I'm like, let's just play pretend
Yes.
that this is all going to go well and let's just go.
Let's just go and figure it out.
And figure it out along the way. And Mark's like, I at least need to know how to hook up the sewer.
That's right. That's
So,
right. But
so
I think if you're renting an RV because you see some of the videos on KYD and you think, hey, that looks like a lot of fun. Let's go rent an RV and see if it is a lot of fun. Well, then just watch our renting RV videos, right? Because here's why. One of the best things that we like about RVing is that we have all of our own things. Right now,
Yes.
Charlie's on the bed and he's snuggled into a mattress that we know is comfortable. We have our coffee maker right there. We have everything to make traveling for an extended period of time comfortable and easy.
And fun.
And fun.
Because when you know what you can rely on, you're able to relax. And when you're able to relax, you have more fun.
And when you're renting an RV, you don't have any of those things.
Or if you've remembered to bring everything, we did make a list.
Mm-hmm.
You can check it out down below. If you do remember to bring everything, I forgot where I was going with this, but
Well, you have your things.
you'll have your things.
But
So
it's still not your things.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Is it's a lot of work. So bringing everything into the rig. So we're sharing all of these things with you so that you are prepared. You're prepared to know that when you're diagramming, he's got a diagram ready. So that way you know, hey, I might remember everything, but getting it all in the rig and getting it all out is going to be a lot of work. But at least when I'm on the trip, I'm gonna have a blast.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, like, things, RVing, renting, owning, being new, it's hard in the beginning. That's why I was drawing a graph. Like, it's really hard in the beginning. And then, if you're committed to it, and you bought a rig and you're financially invested.
Well, you're like a little committed and married.
Yeah, committed. Then you solve those problems. You figure things out. You're like, I don't like this. Let's get this comfortable. Like, like, I don't know if we're going to get to this in our videos, but you notice how these corner cushions in the Airstream are gone? It's because we could never use the dinette because we were always like hopping around, like we're trying to like get into like
The squeeze.
like a booth at a cafeteria or something, right?
Yeah.
So now that Trish got these pillows on Amazon, and we took those out and we slide this table, now I can edit a video, we can relax. These are the little improvements that you make when the RV is yours.
Right.
And things get easier. So just know that okay, long story short, how long is this video? That when you get into RVing, it gets better and better and better as you go.
Yes.
And it's hard in the beginning and you just have to know that. And if you're renting a rig, just know that, hey, it's never going to get worse than this. Okay.
Great.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
All right. So, how to select the right provider. So,
Tips.
So the reason we went with a corporate rental the first time is because it's very difficult to find a diesel, like a triple axle diesel pusher in the rental market. In fact, I found none of them on the like Airbnb, VRBO versions of RV rental. So we had to go to a corporate rental.
Well, here's the thing. You think you found it, and then you call, and they say, oh, no, we don't actually have that. We just use that as, like, bait. And so
That happened.
we called so many different places, because you'll go online right now and try and find one. You're like, well, let's see if that's right. And then you'll see it, but wait, there's more. You have to actually call, and then you find out that that's not something.
And that's
they
kind of the
meant.
drawback to some of the corporate rentals is sometimes they just put all these RVs out there just to get people to call, and then they're like, oh, no problem, I got a different class A for you, because their inventory is moving all the time.
Right. No pun intended.
Yes. Okay, so that's why we did a corporate rental. After we did the corporate rental, we found out that it was kind of bare bones. They didn't really have... we would have preferred having rented from an owner that actually stocked the RV with things that we really needed to make the trip
Made it
nice.
like an experience. They knew that you were staying like an Airbnb. If you were to stay at an Airbnb, you would expect there to be a coffee maker and some, accoutrements.
Yes, and of course the corporate rental things, they charge you for packages for those things.
Yes.
So those are some of the hidden costs that we'll get into. Okay, so after that first corporate rental, I said, okay, we're never doing that again. So let's go find someone in the private market to go do it. And so I found one that was really nice and had great reviews and everything was good. And then the day before, the reservation gets canceled on us.
Yes.
So then we're like, so then we had to go back to the corporate rental because that was the only place that we could literally get an RV the next day.
Yeah, the next morning.
And we didn't want to lose our reservations at Catalina State Park and Lost Dutchman, of which I messed up those reservations anyway. So
you can tell it was a little bit of a baby nightmare, but here's the thing. If you find a provider, and we've never rented from a place like Cruise America or even Outdoorsy, things like that, you might find this experience to be a lot easier, and you might also find itineraries from the people that are renting the rig. Mark and I had lots of time to brainstorm, and we're like, if we ever did this, we would create videos, we would create an itinerary, we would tell people where to go, this is the greatest restaurant, so if you can kind of pull some of that information information out from the person that you're renting, if it's a private party, you might be like one step ahead.
But there's a caveat to that too, okay? I'm just trying to like share all the information so you can set yourself up for success, because that's the purpose of this video, is letting you know where the potholes are on the road so that you can steer around them, because there is a good reason to rent RVs if you know how to steer around them. So once we wanted to go to a private, then I found another company for the Class B that I thought was private, and I thought it had great reviews, and it very much looked like an individual.
Right.
Until we showed up, and it was an individual house. It was in a neighborhood, but there were 20 RVs in the backyard.
Right.
And so when I pulled up, I said, well, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this to be someone's RV. I wanted to look someone in the eye and say, hey, this is my RV. Like,
take care of it,
now. Right? I'm like, I got you. I'm like, that's what I wanted. I wanted that. We never got that.
No.
And the more people I called, the more I found out that they were really just trying to make money in the RV business. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with
There's
that.
nothing wrong with it, with the exception that, do they really have the resources to provide everything they need? Because, you know, that black tank valve, that's because they're just busy cleaning RVs, pulling the tanks and everything else.
Yeah.
You didn't see it. We rented the Class B, and unbeknownst to us, the black tank and the gray tank valves were completely open the whole time. So the only thing holding back the glory was the cap.
Glory.
Okay.
We're gonna have to take those shoes off.
I'm gonna have to take my skin off. Okay.
And a lot of people are like, Mark, you really should check those valves. I always check my valves before I open. I'm like, yeah, me too. In my RV, right?
Yeah,
Brand new RV.
There's so many moving parts, quite literally, that you forget to do things. So we also have a checklist for that. So,
okay, so that's okay. So how to pick the right provider? I think take your time and really stick to those reviews, because there are so many listings with like 1 or 2 reviews.
Right.
Find someone that has great reviews and then give them a call. Say, hey, is this your RV? Do you rent other RVs? Try to find out if they are able to provide you everything you need for a great trip.
yeah,
Okay, let's talk about the cost.
it's expensive.
It ranges. Well,
Did I-
there's a range.
did
There's
I
a range.
just-
There's a
did I
range.
just cut to the chase?
No,
it's
a-
expensive.
It's a range of expensive. It's
Okay.
from expensive to really expensive. Okay, so it's somewhere in there.
Well, right when you think you've paid for it, okay, then make sure you have the proper insurance through your own provider, or if you have to get something new. But then one of the biggest hidden costs for us, because we really wanted to go on a trip. They weren't like just delivering it to an RV park. So I know at Fort Wilderness they do that. Hey, can you deliver an RV for me? They put it in the spot. That's your home base. You run through the park. Da 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 da.
Could we have had this delivered out east?
Yeah.
Probably could have. Hey, can you take our RV
Hey,
out there? Okay, anyway.
So anyway, one of the hidden costs is that you will probably be capped at a certain mileage. So for us, we weren't allowed to go over 100 miles in a day.
It's about 100 to 150 a day,
Right.
typically.
And then there's also caps or charges per hour on your generator. So like when we went to Lost Dutchman, we realized that we didn't get a site with hookups. Like we just need electricity. And so then you get charged for the generator, for how long you use the generator. So anyway, and people were like, oh, you could have just left your generator going and then you could have let your dog and whatever. But no, that's not the case, because there were generator hours. So when you're creating a video and you put something out there, you really understand what people's questions are. Sometimes it comes out and you should have done this, but really what they're asking a question. And the question is, are there generator hours? Yes, there are generator hours. So anyway, there's hidden costs with mileage, with generator, and then on top of it, you are paying for the location you want to go to. So depending on what kind of location, Lost Dutchman was, under $35. But if you go to, like, let's say Fort Wilderness, you're going to pay upwards to $150. So that's on top of what you just paid. And then you pay for fuel or gas.
Yeah, we found that the typical cost for an RV rental was somewhere like $200 to $250 per night, and the Class A's go $350, $450, $550 and up. And so, but that's kind of what we were talking about, what those costs were. And then I always selected the highest insurance option. I wanted the least amount of. When I returned the RV to them.
No
Regardless
questions
of
asked.
the condition, we needed to move on with our life.
Yes.
And so I always chose that option. Okay.
Well, through experience.
Through hashtag New Zealand, hashtag where did the window go? The second window wasn't my fault. Okay. And then there was the conspiracy.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, so insurance, you've got the miles per day, and then I feel like there was another big cost.
Well,
in there.
while you're thinking of that, I do want to balance the cost conversation, because sometimes you want the most quintessential, beautiful trip through national parks, maybe state parks, maybe you want to drive up the one. There's just certain things that you can't do outside of a road trip. And the best way to do a road trip is with an RV. You just have everything you need. You can stop and pull over and take a nap. You can cook food. You can have, when you're traveling with little kids, they come with a lot of things if you want to be with your pets. And so we just want you to know that it is worthwhile. If you're looking into renting a rig, it's totally worthwhile.
Well, that goes back to how we started with the mission, which I think is really important. We feel like renting an RV, the trip should be catered around something that only the RV can provide. A hotel and a VRBO, Airbnb,
just would
not cut it. It's not going to put you where you need to be to see the sunrise or to be in nature and to be truly camping. And we feel like if the RV is rented for that type of trip and the focus is on the outdoors, it will compensate for some of the deficiencies that you may experience renting an RV.
Yes.
That's a great point.
Okay, I just want to bring this up really quick with cost, because some people might be listening right now and they're like, $250, I could go get a hotel for like $99, and it might not be the best place,
or $250,
or even $250. And so why on earth would I do this? Okay, again, having an RV is totally amazing because you have all your things. Now, this is just food for thought. I'm not saying this is something you should go rush out and do. It might be something that makes RVing attainable, and then you have ownership in something so you can set it up exactly the way you'd like it. And that is to consider a partnership, whether it's with a family member or friends, and you go in on something together. We wanted to get into boating. This was like way back when the kids were little, and we're like, boating is really expensive, and you have to store it and take care of it and everything else. Well, we ended up getting partners, and so it made the boat really affordable. It wasn't like we were using it every single weekend. Everybody was happy with the arrangement. The only tip for that is probably put one person from each party in charge of talking to each other. So if there's 3 couples, one person from each one of those couples are talking, so you're not like exponentially having conversations. So
I remember when we did that, we thought that it was going to be so hard to manage how we were all going to be using it, and we had this fancy Google scheduling system and whatnot. And it turns out no one uses anything as much as you think you're going to use it.
Yeah.
It was a non-issue.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would suggest is maybe out of those 3 partners, let's say 2 or 3 partners, maybe one person is spearheading the maintenance and the repairs, like whomever's the most into it. Like that was me for our boat, and I kept everything at 100%, and I would call them up and say, hey, it needs this, this, and this, it's this much money, and they would, we had, in our second boat we had 2 other partners, and they would send 1/3, and then we came up with this joke where we'd be like, we would round down and divide by 3. And that's how we covered the boat maintenance. But anyway, it was a positive experience for us.
It was a very positive
And I think with an RV, the only thing you have to consider is who gets holidays. I think that would be the thing. Like, who gets 4th of July this year? Who gets Memorial Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day? There's days. And maybe if it's just rotating each year, and the calendar just keeps rotating, we think that would be a great way to get into the RVing
in a very affordable way. Because if you really take financing into consideration, you may be a cash buyer and you just buy it outright. But if you take financing into consideration too, the price would just be like so tiny, fractional. So anyway, it's just something to think about.
Okay, so how to prepare and what to bring. Trish,
don't camp with us, okay? I think we might be the worst. We even make lists and we check them and then we still forget them. So anyway, but having a checklist, and then also what I like to do for meal planning is write down like what works and what doesn't, so that I can kind of reference that. And so that might be helpful for you too. Like when you go on a camping trip, make sure you make a list of what worked, what didn't, what was frustrating, what needed to be improved. So if you do this more than once, let's say you just want to take one RV trip a year and renting is perfect for you. Keep that list, put it with your camping equipment, and then that way you can reference it. Or, if you're a digital type of person, put it on a Google Drive or whatever you like to do.
Hey, when you said take that one trip a year, that reminded me of my other cost.
What?
Yes, it seems very expensive, but even that huge Class A that we rented, and it was enormous. It was incredibly expensive. Everything about it.
Everything.
Everything about it.
The fuel. going.
What?
Keep going.
Keep going?
Well, you're like on the lowest part of the half nozzle.
Really?
Maybe above. Yeah, just a little bit more.
Okay. The insurance, the nightly rate, and then we went to the Grand Canyon, okay? It was still less than the registration alone on a rig that cost half as much as that.
I swear, when we were really considering buying a Class A, because for a little while we really were considering it, we went and you called and you did a bunch of research, and we were the tags on the registration alone, that was the deal breaker for us. We're like, we're gonna have to pay that every year.
Every year.
No, thank you.
I mean, I know there's ways around it, but
yeah,
but not for KYD. Okay, so how to prepare? Okay, I would say when you rent RVs, even if you get an individual that cares about their RV, they're gonna put some plastic cover around that mattress, and it creeps us out.
That's not really helpful.
But we bought our own, right?
Yeah, but a plastic sheet with a bunch of holes in it is not.
I think you should bring your own mattress pad.
Yeah, your own mattress cover.
Mattress cover, is that what it is?
Yes.
That goes around the mattress.
Yes.
And then bring your own sheets.
Yes.
Just so that you can have peace of mind around that.
You feel nice and clean.
You feel nice and clean.
And then, you know, just, yeah.
And then I know that some RVs, you could just communicate with whomever's renting your RV. One person said that they would have asked way more questions. Like, we should not have been surprised that Class A didn't have anything. Here's the other thing that the video didn't portray. We actually did not reserve that RV. We reserved another RV that was in an accident. And then they said, hey, I've got this RV, but it's more money. And I'm like, at this point, it doesn't even matter, right?
Well, once you have reservations at a place like the Grand Canyon, you are not losing them.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I'm doing this trip. And so the other RV, again, every time we rented an RV, it was like, everything went like crazy. And so, anyway, and that other one was fully stocked.
Well, and I didn't ask questions on the new RV because it was a new RV, and I just started, at this point, it's like, we just need to get going.
If you talk about mission, our mission was to just make sure we had an RV.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So things to prepare: the mattress pad, towels, everything like this, and then just communicate with who's renting it so that you can get some tips. We personally bring our own coffee maker and things because from our RV experience, we want to rely on some things that we enjoy in the morning, like coffee.
And so this might be a tip that you hate, it might be a tip that you love, but if you do rent a rig and you have all these towels and blankets and coverlets and all kinds of stuff, just keep them in your trunk or the bed of your truck. Go cruise by a laundromat. You'll have all that laundry done in 90 minutes or less.
Trish did a video on that.
I did a video on that because I know that you have it at your house. You could do it at your own leisure. But what happens is you unpile all these clothes. They're probably pretty dirty. Like, no matter where we went, it was like we were going on hikes. I mean, everything had sand in it. It was just bad. So anyway, you cruise by a laundromat, you get all of that done, you fold it up, boom, boom, boom. Even if you have little kids, you can make them help you. Forced labor.
Yes.
And then you bring it home and you put it away and the camping trip is over. For me, the worst part is being at home and having laundry down the hallway because our washing machine and dryer isn't like in a designated room. It's kind of like in a closet. And so laundry everywhere for like a few days because my dryer's not strong enough to dry comforters. Anyway, it's just a side tip. You might like it, you might not. But if you just kept everything in the trunk, the next day you just ran to a laundromat, boom, boom, totally done.
So I realize now, reflecting on this video and this conversation, that this did not sound overly compelling to go rent RVs. Okay?
Sorry.
So maybe it's more of here's some things that you can watch out for, because I do believe that if you know what you're getting yourself into and you know, hey, we're going to have some challenges, it's going to be difficult, but we knew that, and you're focused on the destination and you're focused on what it is that you're getting from the RV out at the national park, and you're focused on your family. I mean, when we were in the Grand Canyon and we looked around, there were more Class C's than I've ever seen in my life. I mean, clearly Grand Canyon is like the place to rent an RV and go to.
Yes.
And I saw someone trying to level their rig for a good 45 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
They were having a blast.
They were.
And so, I mean, they were leveling the rig, right?
Right.
And so it's important, and I think Tim from our community mentioned that long time ago he was in RV and he said ignorance is bliss when he first. Ignorance is bliss when you're first getting started. It is fun. There are some challenges, but it's fun.
It's an adventure. You know, a vacation is where you go to be waited on. An adventure is where you go to get a little dirty.
Yes.
And you leave with memories. And I think that's the best part about renting an RV. If you don't already have one, or you want to experience something else, or you want to see what kind of RV might be good for you, just remember it's an adventure. And so there's going to be ups and downs.
Yes, but it'll be worth it in the end. No one ever regrets, like, we remember those, and we talked about this, about there's peaks and there's dips, and you remember them both equally in hindsight. So, okay, so we're not doing that anymore. And I mean, it was a good idea. You know, we thought we wanted to try all these different RVs, but we just didn't realize that there were as many obstacles as there were.
Well, there's a lot of logistics, and that's the other thing. You know, people ask all the time, is it better or worse to record your life? And I think that it's better in so many ways. We get a lot of rewards because we get to look back, we get to really set out on an adventure, we get to be deliberate about making memories. One of the things that's a challenge is that if someone calls and says, oh yeah, that Class A you were going to rent tomorrow or whatever, you can't have it. Oh, whoa. We have like a schedule of events.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. Like, no, we're going.
Yeah, we need to go. And so for us, and it might be different for you, and again, we're just bringing it up so you know what's going on, is like we had to be in a rig at a certain time. We had reservations and we needed to complete the journey. And so anyway, that's just, maybe if someone calls and cancels on you, it's no big deal. You're like, I'll just do it next weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I doubt it. I think everybody would be a little bit.
I think if you have reservations at a great place like the Grand Canyon, or we went down to Tucson in Catalina State Park. I mean, those are hard to come by.
Well, and that was kind of the drawback to the process, is I felt powerless in that moment because, you know, there was no recourse. Right. There was no, you know, and then this person decided to sell the rig. That's why he canceled on us. So like he wasn't even going to be on the platform anymore. So, you know, that whole thing was a little disappointing. Okay, so beyond that, we're headed out east. Next weekend, we sit down with Eric from Techno RV out of the E3 camping conference, or E3 conference, and we sat down with Eric because he had a blowout on his Class A, and so we go into the details about that because this season about motorized.
Did you know that if you have a blowout in the front of your Class A, it's like a 2-person job to keep you on the road?
It can't be.
I didn't even know that. So we're going to learn so much.
Yeah, I haven't even told you yet because you weren't there when I interviewed him. I guess when the blowout happened, Tammy says, "We're going to heaven!" So anyway, it's a fun interview and there's lots to learn there. So we have that to share with you, and then we go back to the cabin and we turn it back into a vacation rental. We load up everything in this Airstream. We just now got it cleaned up. Yes. And so now we're headed out east, and this is going to be, we're very excited about this season. We have some fun news to share with you.
It's not over yet, ladies and gentlemen.
It's going to be good. And so that's it. So, and we wanted to kind of like put a bow on the rental thing, and we wanted to set it down and walk away slowly.
Walk away slowly, back away.
All right, so anyway, we're glad you're here. We're glad you tune in every Sunday. You know, right now, like, we're kind of getting on these tactical videos, but you'll be excited for 2 weeks from now we hit the road again, because there's lots of adventure to come this season.
Yes.
Anything else?
Well, until we meet again, right?
And you know when. Oh, man.
Bye for now.